Welcome to the Elliott Confidential podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott, here with Aaron Elliott.
Hey, it's your son.
It's my son. How are you?
I am doing well.
We are on Anguilla, which is in the Caribbean still, and it's right across the bay from St. Martin, which is a place a lot of people go to.
St. Martin and St. Martin.
That's right, St. Martin and St. Martin with two A's.
There's Saint Martin and then there's
Martin.
Saint Martin.
Yeah. It's been a long, long trip through the Caribbean, and here we are now. And how do you feel?
Wow, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, me too. I'm really exhausted.
Yeah, exhausted from all those long walks on the beach and cool drinks I've been drinking while watching the sunset.
Oh yeah, I'm sure people are going to love that. It actually has been, I haven't gotten any sleep. I've just been working really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I know you have too.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is you just finished your degree.
Well, yeah, I finished it a couple of days ago actually, and I got all my grades back, and now I'm just waiting to see if I pass the final exam.
I'm sure you will.
I'm sure.
You got all A's so far.
Yeah.
Good boy.
I'm happy about
Such
that.
a good boy.
Good boy. Good boy, good boy, good boy. It's like I'm a puppy,
Yeah, you're a good boy.
a golden retriever.
This week's question is about alternate destinations, and the reason I'm asking about it is because we're here on Anguilla, and most people go to St. Martin. So I'm wondering if any of you listening here have been to or have a favorite alternate destination that you'd like to talk about. For example, instead of going to St. Martin, going to Anguilla. Instead of going to San Francisco, going to maybe the East Bay, Oakland, or Berkeley. Instead of going to Miami, going to the Florida Keys. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite alternate destination? What is yours, Aaron?
Well, I have to tell you that there are some destinations that have really two sides to them. And I know we've talked about this before, but it's the old-fashioned sort of, you go look at Minneapolis, there's the hipster side, and then there's the sort of run-down, gang violence side. And then it's the same thing with Sedona. You have one side that's just a giant tourist trap, that's East Sedona, and then you have where everyone lives and where all the good stuff is, the culture.
Yes.
That's West Sedona.
And the good grocery stores.
Good grocery stores, good hiking trails.
Great hiking, yes.
It's all in West Sedona.
I don't think you should be telling people about this, because then they'll go to West Sedona and they'll ruin it. We'll just
it's too late.
Yeah.
Too late.
No. We used to live in West Sedona. We loved it there.
We did.
What a cool place.
But we never go back there because 89A is a parking lot.
It is. I don't think I would go back there during spring because that's when everyone goes. But
Sure.
in the fall, it actually is really nice there. There are not a lot of people, and those monsoon rains have stopped anyway. Sedona.
True that.
I could keep talking about Sedona for a long time.
I think that the interesting thing about Anguilla as an alternate destination is that St. Martin, well, more people may be going there, but there are other Caribbean islands that are nearby that also have a bit of a reputation, one of them being St. Bart's. Now, we were just talking to the Anguilla National Trust about St. Bart's.
We were, yeah.
And what did they say?
They said that St. Bart's has been ruined.
It's been ruined, not just that it's ruined, that that it has passed the point of no return.
Yes.
In terms of environmental destruction.
And the beaches are not there.
They're gone.
Some beaches are gone, and all you have is concrete from the homes that have been built in the resorts right up against the water.
Incredible.
Which is, that's pretty interesting.
Which is a stark contrast considering that Anguilla has some of the most beautiful beaches we have seen.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because really, we've done two things while we're here. We've done a lot of interviews for my sustainability series, which is highly controversial. And we've also been checking out all the things that they have here, which is mainly diving and beaches.
Yep.
And can you describe what the average beach here looks like so that people can know?
Well, the average beach here, I think that you have to see it this way, is in Barbados, for example, everything is built up a little bit closer to the beach. And so you have these maybe smaller beaches, but, and really there's not as much beaches. They're not long beaches, let's say that, and they don't even go out very far. So that's like a sort of smaller beach. However, the water is really nice, and especially at sunset, it's something that's I think is really beautiful. You get a really nice photo in Barbados. Here, however, it's a little bit different. You know, the sunsets are not the same, but the watercolor is better. The beaches go out longer and they're wider. Not only that, but the sand is perfect. It's better than any sand that we've ever seen in the Caribbean. It is perfect powdery sand. It's yeah, you're comparing it to Sarasota?
Yeah, it's a little bit like Sarasota. It's that powdery sugar consistency. You're right. The best sunsets in the Caribbean are in Barbados, but the best beaches, I have to say, are right here in Anguilla. And look, there's people who like rocky beaches, and if you like a rocky beach, maybe this isn't the place for you, but if you like a sandy beach, and I'm talking about like pure, almost, you know, powder sand.
It's a sort of sand that, you know, if you go in a little bit out of the water, it's more like a concrete. So it's really good for walking too.
Oh, it's great
because
it
doesn't get slushy.
We've been doing that. Yeah. The neat thing is that you've got this kind of white. It's a little bit beige, but it's mostly white sand. And then you look in the water, and the water is this beautiful shade of blue. It's just incredible, and you can see through to the bottom. And we've been seeing fish, barracuda, stingray, and sometimes they'll follow you along the beach as you're walking.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, I think that when I reflect on the beaches that I visited, like Bonaire had beaches, they were rocky beaches, but you could see parrotfish, which was so cool.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that when
parrotfish would just come out of the water. You would see them just kind of jumping out of the water.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when we were in Antigua, the water actual temperature was the hottest we had ever seen.
Frickin' bathtub, yes. Best water temperature in the Caribbean is in Antigua.
Yeah.
For sure.
But here in Anguilla, you have the most beautiful beaches, and, you know, the water is a little bit cooler, but it's definitely worth coming here for those perfect beaches with perfect sand.
I could not agree with you more. I loved the beaches here and the diving, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the diving. Unfortunately, you're not quite certified yet, so I went diving, and we did a wreck dive and a reef dive. The wrecks are pretty nice. The reefs are, you know, the visibility was not quite as good as Barbados. Barbados really had some of probably the best diving, I would say, in all the Caribbean. I saw everything.
Yeah.
Here, the diving was a little bit, the visibility was not quite as good, but they had some really interesting wrecks. So I went diving on one. It was an old Coast Guard vessel that they had sunk, and there are all kinds of, the really neat thing is you can go down there and you can just be with the fish. The fish are swimming up and down one of the masts, and you can just float there and watch the fish go by. It is really one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, we've been working on the sustainability story for a long time, and I think it was really interesting because we talked the other day, speaking of technology, about the .ai top-level domain.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really interesting because it is now making up a third of the national budget of Anguilla.
And we were lucky enough to meet with the guy who's administering the .ai domain. Nice guy. We went to the same school, so we had a lot to talk about. And he explained just how lucrative this .ai top-level domain. And for those of you who don't know, Aaron, since you're the computer science guy, please explain what a top-level domain is.
So a top-level domain is essentially something like .com, .net, and in this case it's .ai. So it's a domain name that you can use. So technically, this the country Anguilla owns the .ai.
Right. But it's also .ai would also be artificial intelligence.
Of course.
So that's why everyone wants it.
Yes.
Because if you have an AI company, you're going to want to have you're going to want to say my company .ai.
Yes.
And they're making money off that.
Exactly.
A lot of money.
And it's interesting because also here in Anguilla, there is a huge conference for cryptocurrency, which I had no idea about until our friend told us about it.
Right, Vince.
Vince, yes.
I didn't know about that either. And I think that, maybe we should be investing in cryptocurrency. I don't know.
Well, furthermore, this hotel that we're staying in is owned by the former or current owner of Best Buy.
Yeah, the guy who started Best Buy.
Best Buy owns
There's a
Aurora.
lot of money on this island. Yeah.
There is a lot of money on this island. It's very interesting because There are no Best Buys on this island.
Oh, but there are.
For
Okay.
the biggest grocery store, which is called Best Buy.
Yes, it's called Best Buy, but it is not a Best Buy the way that you and I would think of it. Best Buy, it's not an electronics store. It's a grocery store, and it's rather small.
Yes, things are expensive here on the island.
They're cost
Electricity
about-
is expensive.
Well, it costs
Food
about
is expensive.
four times as much. The prices here are
Yeah.
about 4 times what they are on the mainland.
It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Not just for power, but also for things like groceries. It's very expensive to be here. But don't forget our question of the week, which is tell us about your favorite alternate destination. In our last podcast, we asked you about natural disasters and have you been through any on your travels? We seem to attract a fair number of natural disasters ourselves when we're traveling. That's probably because we're always traveling. But we had a lot of great comments.
Janet writes, we were in Morocco last September at the time of the 6.9 earthquake in Marrakesh. We were in the desert at the time, but on our way back to Marrakesh the following day. Our guides had to sleep in their car because the hotel was not considered stable.
Wow.
We had the route back to Marrakesh changed due to highways being dangerous. Wow.
That is crazy. Yeah, that's what they would do. They, because the highway overpasses might not be safe, so they have to find a better way.
Exactly.
Mary says, I generally go to Mexico annually and have experienced many earthquakes during my travels there, including a strong 6.2 in Mexico City. Since I'm from San Francisco, I'm familiar with the sensation and know the difference between ones that can cause damage and ones that are just an interesting feeling. Usually, I'm trying to calm down others in the hotel. Wow, when we were in Antigua, I've been through a lot of earthquakes too. I could feel that it was just a little rumbler that we were experiencing. It wasn't like the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. Stephen writes, my family was visiting San Diego when an earthquake hit. We knew what to look for because we had lived through many earthquakes in the San Francisco Bay Area. First, see if you have power on, then turn on the TV. If nothing is on, it's bad. Everything was normal. We went back to bed, but heard noises. Well, thank goodness nothing bad happened.
Yeah, glad nothing happened to you there. Kathleen says, about 10 years ago, first and only visit to Kauai, which is a beautiful island, we rented a house on a dead-end road, a stone's throw from the Pacific. First day was lovely, then relentless rain. A culvert fell into the sea, rendering the only road inoperable. And then the power went, and the plumbing, oh no! The house was on an open slat design, so we were wet and freezing and hungry. Wow, Kathleen, that doesn't sound like a good vacation at all. Hawaii seems to attract a fair number of natural disasters. I was on, I want to say Maui about 10 years ago with your brother, and we had that tsunami.
Yeah.
He's a little more than 10 years now.
True. Charisse writes, about 15 years ago, I was flying to Hawaii for a 7-day cruise the next day. When I landed, the breaking news was an earthquake in Chile. Didn't think much of the alert, but then an alert came over the television while we were waiting for our baggage that Hawaii was expecting a tsunami. How did an earthquake in Chile translate to a tsunami in Hawaii? That's when our nightmare began. We talked to the clerk at the desk and she brushed it off. Well, at 0400 hours that morning, alarms were going off in the island. Locals knew what that meant.
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That happened to us too when I was in Hawaii with Aiden, and we got a call at 11 p.m. It was a wake-up call telling us to get to higher ground.
Yeah.
So you have to just, if you hear of an earthquake happening somewhere else, it can mean, especially if you're in Hawaii, it can mean that you're going to get a tsunami.
Exactly.
Well, we are headed back to the U.S. mainland for a little, I guess, checking our mail and doing a little shopping before we head off to our next adventure. We're going to take a spin around the world one more time.
Yep.
So we're going to be off for a couple of weeks, and then we'll be back to you from a new destination, and we'll let you know where that is when we get there. So in the meantime, have a great Memorial Day holiday if you're in the United States, or just a great end of May if you're somewhere else. Thank you so much for listening to the Anguilla Confidential podcast, and we'll see you later.
Ciao.